What's up, mini crafters? My name's Samuel, and today we are making a badass lava base for your next mini. No airbrush needed, only cork, a few paints, and just 15 minutes. Not only am I going to show you this step by step on how you can do it for your own bases and your own minis, but I'm going to throw in a couple of extra tips and tricks that most painters miss, don't include, and is what really sells this effect. For building up the elevation on the base, I'm going to be using tried and true cork. This can easily be cracked and broken by hand to get your initial shapes. Don't be afraid to play around with the shapes in different elevation levels. Once I have the layout that I like, I'm going to use super glue and I'm going to get those into place on my base. Leaving the cork just like this looks a little bit choppy and a little too layered. So I'm going to be taking my cheap nippers, my needle nose pliers, and my hobby knife. I'm going to be tearing, chipping, and cutting and shaping the sides of the cork into more hill-shaped forms. My goal is to get rid of the sheer wall that the layers of cork have as they are and make it more of a mound. This next step is optional and it's not going to apply to everybody, but if you notice, my base here has little bumps and grit on it. I 3D printed these myself, and I do the bases upside down so that when I pull them off the supports, they have a little bit of teeth for gluing down things like cork and other basing materials. I usually put down a terrain paste so the bumps don't normally matter, but for this lava base, I need the surface between the rocks to be nice and smooth for when I paint the lava itself. To accomplish this, I'm just going to be adding a thick layer of tacky glue to the base and letting that dry. I'm going to use a black primer because that's going to settle into every crack and recess in the cork and act as our deepest shadow. When we paint the lava colors in those channels, the black around them is going to make those colors look even brighter and more saturated by contrast. And you can pick any color of paint that you want, as long as it's more of like a lava scheme. So if you don't have the exact colors that I'm using, that's totally fine. You can also go online and there's a lot of cool like paint converters. So if you use all Citadel or all Vallejo or whatever, you can go in and say, hey, I have, Citadel Troll Slayer Orange. What color match is the equivalent for whatever the paint range you're looking for is. Starting with my blood red, I'm going to be painting that into the lava channels and gaps. This is going to represent the cooler colors of the lava, and I'm getting that all the way up to the edges of the lip where the rock is touching the river in the middle. Once I have my red base coat in the lava channels themselves, I'm going to be adding some water to my red to thin it down a bit. It's not a full wash consistency, more of a thinned layer consistency. I'm then going to be adding some of that to the lower parts of the rock outcroppings that are near the lava, and that's going to start to lay the foundation of the OSL effect that we're trying to get here. Don't cover all your rock, just the part that's closest to the lava flow. I'm now going to be thinning down some of my Averland Sunset, my golden yellow, and adding strands of that over the red base coat that I just laid down. I want some parts fatter and other parts thinner. I'm intertwining them as I go, and this is going to help me visualize where I want the body of the lava flow to be. And it's going to be the foundation of creating that sense of flowing lava. After I get the yellow streaks down, I'm going to be taking my Troll Slayer Orange and thinning that with a bit of orange ink. I'm using Dollar Rowney. You can use water to thin it, but I find that adding some ink helps to boost that vibrancy while keeping everything transparent. I take my thinned down orange and I'm going to glaze that over the yellow streaks that I just laid down. I'm focusing it on the center of the lava channels rather than going all the way to the edges of the rocks. The idea is that the dark red is going to be staying visible on the outer edges while the orange is going to be taking over in the center. And you can see how even at this stage it's starting to look like there's some depth and heat in there. What I'm doing here is what I think is the basis of successful object source lighting, or OSL. By taking the channel and starting it as all red, it's warm. Then we're going to get closer to the middle and it's going to become orange. Even closer is that golden yellow, and then at the very middle, where it would be the hottest, is going to be that bright yellow. And to round out this step, I'm going to be taking some of my pure Troll Slayer Orange and I'm going to be dry brushing that on the edges of the rock closest to the channel. Start with less here and add more if you want. Remember, if everything is bright and boosted, nothing is. I'm now going to be going back to the Averland Sunset, and I'm going to be using a thinner base coat consistency of that, and I'm going to be building that up as I go. This is going to be at the very center of the channels in the tightest, most concentrated areas. You don't want to put this everywhere. What I'm trying to do is paint this in little strands and streaks, and that's going to continue to create levels to my lava flow, and it's going to be highlighting it in certain little pops of areas. I'm then going to be grabbing some of my ice yellow and mixing that with my Averland Sunset to get a brighter yellow color. I'm nearing off-white here, and I want to add the thinnest strands of this to the middle of my previous layer. I'm also dotting that in little spots along the flow to give it bright spots where the heat of the lava is bursting through. And while I have that ice yellow and Averland mix on my wet palette, I'm going to take the opportunity to also add some of that to the edges of the rocks where it meets the lava flow. And if you need, you can add some water to that mix to thin it down, and that's going to help it flow along the edge of your rocks. I'm also going to be stippling a bit of that mixed ice yellow and Averland Sunset along the rock surfaces close to the lava. This is a minor step, and I'm not adding a ton of it, but it's really going to aid in conveying a glowing hot appearance coming up and spilling over onto the rock. Now I'm happy with how the lava's looking, how the base is coming along, but remember, the trick to OSL is making sure that the surrounding around your glowing source of light is dark, and that's going to create the contrast, which is going to make the shadows darker and the bright spots brighter, and that's what's going to sell the effect that it's glowing. I'm going to be taking some petroleum gray and mixing that with deep red in an 80-20 mix, favoring the petroleum gray. I'm going to be dry brushing that across all of the raised cork surfaces to darken them down. At the same time, that's going to be making the glowing areas look even brighter. You want to be hitting the tops and edges of the cork chunks. We're not trying to fill everything in. You want to make sure that you leave that black primer and the darker red that you glazed on earlier in the recesses, and that's going to be doing your shadow work. Okay, here's the unexpected tool and trick that I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I have started using and really love, and that is a pencil. To finish off the volcanic look of the rock, I'm going to be taking a normal graphite pencil and I'm going to be grazing the tops of the rocks and the edges to get a sort of metallic shine on the uppermost parts. Oftentimes, around lava, rocks and minerals can melt and harden repeatedly. That gives them a metallic and shiny finish. And I'm going to be using the pencil here because it allows me to get a much finer texture effect than if I were to use a dry brush. Doesn't that look good? I think so. And you could stop here, but I have one last optional step. It's what takes this from a good lava base to a great lava base. And once you see it, you're going to want to do it too. If you really want to push the brightness of lava, you can take a very small amount of a fluorescent yellow color and you can dot that into the absolute center of the yellow lava flows. This is going to create tiny glints and hot spots that make the lava feel like it's absolutely hottest at those points. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a few different ways that you can do that. I have links to all the tools and supplies that I use down in the description below, and those are affiliate links that gave a little kickback to the channel at no extra cost to you. I appreciate every single one of you that uses them. Also, if you found the video helpful, like it, subscribe, share it with a hobby nerd friend who's trying to work on their next lava base. That really helps get this channel into the algorithm and helps YouTube push it to new viewers. And if you like this video style and you want to learn more about object source lighting or OSL, I made a video a couple weeks back where I painted up a creepy plague doctor with a glowing green lantern and showed you how to do that step by step as well. So go check it out. Also, drop a comment down below letting me know what technique you'd be interested in seeing me do next. And until next time, keep on crafting.